There is no secret. There's no instantaneous technique or a Shakti pod you can get from a guru or a book that you'll read or a course that you'll take or a YouTuber you'll follow that will finally, finally make something click. This just takes the time that it takes. And I totally resonate with how difficult that can be to grasp. There's a part in you, likely, if you clicked on this video, that feels like, geez, man, come on. I've been at it for 2 months, that can feel long, or 2 decades. And I'll make another video about where we do get stuck because I don't mean to take this topic lightly. There are certainly pitfalls that a lot of us encounter, and there is similar pitfalls that might arrive or appear on on your path. So there are skillful means by which you can approach this process. But my message for today really is something else. It is to just relax. Relax. Try to let go. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, try this inquiry on for a size. What are you escaping? And now you can really get in touch with some resistance brewing in you. Either it's conscious or unconscious, but the resistance is there because the resistance is what the ego is made of. It's the whole selfing mechanism is built on top of clinging and resisting, which essentially can be seen as one and the same. We either want that thing over there that we don't have, or we really don't want this thing that is our current experience. So my suggestion is to sit with this question more than anything else. More than trying twice as hard, attempting a impossible 8-hour meditation marathon, going to that next retreat, reading that next book, listening to the next podcast. Just sit with this. If you are feeling frustrated and there's been very little progress, for a lack of a better word, then just notice where really is this earnest drive to wake up coming from? And we don't want to vilify it because it's beautiful. There's something on the inside that's knocking. And so I mean, that is our biggest blessing and our biggest gift. The call for adventure, which few choose to answer. And yet here you are. So I want to say well done. And yet notice how there is still a part of us that takes credit for showing up, for answering the call, and for doing well. And the other side of that coin is when things are not going as fast, are not progressing in the way that we think they should, then there's a feeling of maybe not being good enough, or feeling lost, or a deeper sense of despair that we are fundamentally broken. We will never wake up. Awakening is reserved for the few out there and not us. And that too becomes a beautiful portal if you can see it as such. It becomes a portal into the resistance, into ordinary mind, into the web of thoughts and limiting beliefs that we're caught in. And awakening is nothing but a slow and gradual extrication. We're extricating ourselves. We're liberating ourselves from essentially just a very intricate web of beliefs. And there are many awakenings along the path, but certainly the most important one is glimpsing that you are not these beliefs, you are not your thoughts. So even though a thought might be operating, you're starting to notice almost sort of like the space in between thoughts. And so we can even take a minute now to just drop in and notice what happens when the thinker is allowed to be. We stop resisting our thoughts. We let go of the idea of an ideal meditator who's completely empty, like a hollow bamboo. We notice it like a cloud just drifting by, but we don't have to engage with it. We can just let it be. We don't have to oppose it, we don't have to fight it. The idea is there. And notice the spaciousness that might come in at this moment when we start fighting ourselves. And simultaneously, there's a spaciousness, there's a distance that's created between us and our thoughts. And the astute listener who's been around the block, so to say, will immediately inflect that, well, witness consciousness is not necessarily non-duality. It's not necessarily where we're going with this, but it is helpful. If you are getting stuck in ordinary mind, then the first step will be to wake up from that. Wake up from the identification with being a separate self, thinking a lot of thoughts that ultimately are not helping us. And we are stuck in this thought storm of negative beliefs and thoughts and despair and anxieties, depression, whatever it might be. And the first step is just to notice that they do not define us. We have mistakenly taken ourselves to be the one who's on a path, who's on a journey, who needs to make progress, and perhaps the progress is not happening fast enough. And so when a video appears telling us there's a secret way to achieve enlightenment now, why that part of us that is in such anguish obviously can't help but to see whether that could be the key to the prison where we hold ourselves prisoners. And the more you hear people talk about it in this way, the more frustration might build because it seems so esoteric and mystical. And why are people talking in riddles? And that does become clear. It becomes clear because as we begin to touch that which is beyond the mind, that which is beyond language, all that is left essentially is just images, whether that's music, poetry, or guiding people with imperfect formulations and words and metaphors and analogies. That's all we can do, really, because you cannot point to it directly, you cannot name it, you cannot describe it. It is beyond all description. All we can do is hint. We can transmit the peace and the many other qualities that arise from it, but we can never describe or encapsulate what this thing or no thing really is. And if you have a spiritual achiever part, just like I do, that's taking notes right now and really trying to crack it with your mind, I know that one really, really well. Oof, that's a tough cookie, huh? Because we have relied on our minds so heavily since we're kids. I've certainly gotten a lot of encouragement since I was a tiny boy for for the brilliance of my mind, for solving things, using our brains, for cracking problems, for achieving, for getting somewhere in life, using our smarts, taking IQ tests to measure yourself against others and see how well you were fare in life based on your IQ score. Oh, take a moment to just feel how tiring that might be. See if there's a part of you that, no matter how smart you might consider yourself to be, how much of your self-worth is tied to that. If it's a lot, then what I'm talking about right now might feel heavy. So just notice what that would feel like to allow the possibility that you're not defined by your brains, by your IQ, no matter how much or little you have of it, that you are infinitely vaster than any silly scale can measure you. You are unmeasurable, you are unbound, infinite consciousness. You are the universe, you are God, you are Shiva Shakti, you're the life force. You are life. You are the infinite. You are that which is beyond all these names. You are that which is beyond, 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 beyond. And so your mind might be listening and trying to make sense of it, but there's something deeper inside of you that keeps you hooked, that keeps you listening to what I have to say. Because it's not really I. Similarly, there's something beyond this person that appears on your screen where I'm speaking from. And that thing, or no thing, this transmission, is already working its magic. It's already touching that within you that is beyond the person, is beyond the doer, beyond the achiever, beyond the frustrated, the stuck one, maybe the accelerated one. Maybe your path is going amazingly well and there's a lot of optimism and joy and love. Maybe the path has already been extremely fruitful to you and you feel like a really good monk or meditator or just like a spiritual guy or gal, and that's all good. That's all good until it becomes too confined. Even that, which might feel good, might lead to an over identification with it when we take ourselves again to be something that we are essentially not. It's not our true nature, it's not who we really are. And rather than abiding as that, which is beyond, 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 we become this frustrated little seeker or this really amazing meditator, Vipassana student, mm, the biggest follower of whatever teacher on YouTube or in real life, been to all the retreats, read all the books, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. So, what are you escaping? That's a clue. Because in absence of trying to escape anything or to get anywhere, notice how they're almost the same on some level, right? That sort of clinging, trying to get somewhere, or running away from something, this aversion and resistance. Notice how they're one and the same essentially. You just don't want to be where you are now. Whether you being pulled forward or just escaping something that's behind you just are not at peace where you are right now. And so notice what is that pull. And again, distinguish that which is essentially pure and beautiful. It is your own true nature knocking from the inside. But notice how that usually is, it doesn't pull you away from the now. There's an unfolding, there's a natural unfolding to this that is beautiful and peaceful and awesome and exhilarating and beautiful and beyond the mind and beyond your wildest expectations, and at the same time completely normal and ordinary, and it fits perfectly into your life. And it just happens spontaneously by itself. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do anything. That might appear as you meditating and having a daily practice, which is helpful, but there's not that identification with the meditator that is on the path to summer. There's not a sense that once I get it, then I'll be happy, then I'll be free. So notice the thoughts that are operating, that are online right now, that make you feel like you're in prison, that you're confined to something, to a small cage, and you need to get out. There's a bit of a paradox in this because there's this saying that a man that wishes to enlighten really needs to want it as badly as a drowning man gasps for air. So there needs to be this fire that pushes you to this edge of being ready to let go, of being ready for the biggest transformation of your life. And if you love paradoxes, man, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this journey. But if you have a analytical, scientific even, black and white mind, then there might be struggling. There might be there might be a struggle and an effort to make sense of that which is again beyond the human mind's ability to make sense of it. It doesn't have to make sense. And once you find that gear where suddenly the need to make sense of relaxes into that which is, oof, can you feel that? Oof, just saying yes to what is, acceptance of how life is, of where we are within that life, of everything that is, of everything that was and everything that is to come. And with that, everything collapses into the eternal now, where nothing needs to be done. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere we're coming from. There's just here now, me talking to you. And so the more you can land into the now without trying to get anywhere else, the more you start touching that which is your true nature, your being. And from your infinite being, everything else is and has been and will keep doing. It will keep unfolding and falling into place. Perfect. You don't have to worry, you don't have to do, you don't have to manage. And so there's not going to be an immediate switch because the protector manager parts that we all carry that got born out of the unsafety, out of all those situations where we were little and trusting, where that wasn't a good strategy. So we felt like, hey, hold on, I need to manage this. I can't just let go and trust. It isn't safe. That takes time. It takes time for those manager parts of us to feel safe. And it is like, I believe it's a quote by Jesus from the Bible. I can't quote it directly, but for you, something along the lines of for you to be able to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to become like little children again. And so, what is the one quality of that we associate with little children before they have to grow up? They're trusting, they're pure, they're innocent, they're beautiful, they're just themselves. They are already their true nature because they're not running away and they're not pulling anywhere. They're like if you ever see a child that is still at play in the moment, in the now, that's exactly what's going on. They're just there. They're not thinking about the next thing. They're not thinking about what happened a moment ago. They're just so engulfed in the present moment. And so, if we want to come back to the kingdom of heaven, we need to become like those trusting children again. We have to allow ourselves to be held by the universe again, to find that trust within us that not everything needs to be solved by the mind. We're not a struggling, separate little self against this huge, vast, and on some level hostile or careless or discompassionate universe. And it doesn't matter how much I'm gonna talk about this, it doesn't matter what I say. Maybe you can catch my drift. You can catch the frequency of the transmission that I'm sending out. But whether you can or you cannot at this moment, this is something that you will have to find within yourself. This is something that will blossom with time. And once you start to touch the soul that is in everything, every living or otherwise thing, you'll see that you are infinitely held. There is no one thing that can escape this boundless, unconditional love. And then striving slowly, gradually, for me anyway, and I believe for most, it is a gradual process. You let yourself be held by the universe. And these protector manager parts that's been working over time, they really have, keeping us safe for all these years. Ooh, they begin to feel that, they begin to believe and to trust, and they begin to relax. And the intensity of that pull to be somewhere else or be somebody else or do something else or that starts to weaken naturally because we're more at peace. We're more satisfied with the moment as it is right now. That'll be all for now. I'll see you in the next one.